This is a podcast from Rover.
We talked about the cost of living on the show yesterday, the state of skyrocketing utility bills, and a major contributor to this pain is rising interest rates, pushing the prices up in most sectors. So are banks laughing at us? Their profits steadily rise and change is so slow to come. The Commerce Commission investigated and found that the top tier of New Zealand's banking problem is ANZ, ASB, BNZ and Westpac. They're all making more money of us than their global peers, you see. Business leader Sam Stubbs says that we are the cash cow that keeps on giving. They're laughing at us. So how are they getting away with it, and when's change coming? Sam joins us now. G'day, Sam. Nice to see you.
G'day.
We constantly talk about this, don't we? But we can't stop talking about it because they've done nothing about it.
No, it keeps on going. You mentioned $7 billion worth of profit. Remember, that's after tax too, mate.
Yeah,
it was about $10 billion before tax. That's about $2,000 per New Zealander on average.
Per year?
Yeah, per year. It's a massive amount. So
it's more than some people pay in their rates.
Yeah, and look, it is by far the most profitable industry in the country. And it's interesting, I think, the last time I looked at it, the four most profitable companies in the country were the four biggest banks, and we're the only country in the OECD that I could find where that's the case.
Is there nowhere else where their profile fits the same around the world?
No, they are exceptionally profitable here, and I think that's because we're effectively a branch office of their Australian head offices. I mean, I do feel for the local people on the ground here. I mean, the people working in these banks are really good people. They mean well, but fundamentally they're being told by Melbourne and Sydney, look, this is a cash cow, carry on milking it.
Is it true that if you look at the ANZ profit, if you compare it to the Australian, as a like for like, ours is something like 4 times, because we're 4 times smaller, that our profit is 4 times bigger, which just shouldn't happen.
Well, the last time the banks started, basically produced what I call segmented data on where they're making money geographically. New Zealand for all of them was about 20% more profitable on a per person basis than it was in Australia.
It's across mortgages, isn't it?
It's mortgages and term deposits. Banks basically, banking's really simple, Duncan. All you do is you take term deposits and you add a margin on and you lend it out in mortgages and business lending and so on. And that's called the net interest margin.
Right.
Now, the net interest margin in New Zealand is higher than it is in Australia, and actually the net interest margins in New Zealand are like they're world class in a really bad way, right? Really bad way.
It's what you don't want.
Yeah, they're extremely high, and the reason is, and the Commerce Commission finally used the word oligopoly when they did this, right? No one's been able to say that for fear of what the banks would come with you at.
Yes.
But basically they've said it now. They are running an oligopoly, or you'd call it cartel pricing.
It's cartel. It's like oil companies, isn't it, in many ways?
Yeah. And so the only real way look, turkeys don't vote for Christmas, mate. You're never going to get them to lower their margins, because they want to, or because it feels good, or because it's the right thing to do. Right?
You effectively have to legislate, because otherwise you won't get buying, will you?
Well, there are two options. One is legislation, but effectively it's let's create proper competition. And so what the legislation should do, I've never been in favour of profit taxes on these things, because I think it sets a very dangerous precedent.
It does,
But you do have to open up for competition, proper competition. So we've just had, that the open banking now is starting. Effectively what we've done is we've kind of built the foundations for the house. You're not going to notice things happening dramatically and quickly, but now we've started on this journey whereby, and look, here's the big prize. The big prize is when Kiwibank can get really big and hairy and can start beating them up. But the real prize is when, it's interesting in New Zealand, Duncan, like we have Nike, New Balance, we have Japanese cars. We don't have a Japanese bank. We don't have an American bank. We don't actually have any big gorillas coming in here and beating up the Aussies.
There are some Indian banks, but that's more development stuff, isn't it?
They're really small, small change, right? So when we're able to do number portability, when we can move our bank account the same way we can move our power, account right now, when we have that, and when you can move it to a really big gorilla, like, Bank of America, Tokyo Mitsubishi Bank, one of the really big ones, who've decided that because there's open banking, because you can now go and get market share, because you don't have to open branches in every town, right? Then you'll get competition.
No wonder the banks have all the lobbyists in Wellington still. I mean, the lobbyists are there, they're doing the business, and they are close to the politicians because it's in their interest to be, right?
Absolutely. And what they've done, and this is my personal opinion, but for the longest time there, as soon as the government started to, say, listen, we want to open this up, they said, we might pull out of New Zealand. Like, come
Rio
on.
Tinto.
It's absolute rubbish. I mean, this is, and it hasn't happened. I've seen, one bank do it in my career 2 or 3 times now. So no, that won't happen. So once we have a level playing field and we get more competition in, that means that we'll get more choice. Now, what you're going to see in the interim is you're going to see a couple of small companies start up now, and they're going to start offering you debit cards.
We've seen a bit of that, haven't we?
Yeah. Companies like, Dosh, Emerge, Debut, they're all coming through now. They're awesome. They will go out and start offering actual transaction services. It'll be really hard for them to offer you a mortgage and to take term deposits because they need need to be a bank and they need to be big and hairy in that regard, but they will start to show that there is actually some choice.
See, one of the answers is also Kiwibank getting some capital. Kiwibank getting some power and some grunt because they haven't got anything.
That's absolutely what they should do. So Kiwibank is a one-arm boxer with 4 heavyweights in the ring, right?
Isn't it? And one of them is Tyson.
Exactly. And so once they get serious money and that they can get seriously beefy, that's more competition as well.
Yeah, but when? See, if I tried to move banks today, how hard will it be?
It's going to take time, mate. Look, I think it will take 3, 4, 5 years before we start to see serious competition. We need several pieces of the law to change in terms of doing this. But listen, we're on the track now. I think, look, it's taken so long, Duncan, for the politicians to wake up to the fact that we're actually being gouged here. Like the biggest milking operation in New Zealand is the banks. It's not Fonterra.
No, that's right. And so that you did right about that. But I wonder, in the interest, there's no interest for the banks to actually push for change here. So how does the next step come?
The law changes, the law creates a level playing field, and then competitors start looking at New Zealand saying, we can finally compete.
Are we big enough, those two attract?
At the margin, we will, because look, in the old days, mate, you had to set up a branch in every town, right? But now you can do all of these things online, right? So as soon as, a big US or a big European or big Japanese bank starts to say, hey, listen, we can actually set up a website here, people can transfer very quickly, we have a competitive pricing power.
Do you think we're close to that?
3 to 5 years away is my guess, but we're starting. It's starting. The other interesting thing too, Duncan, is you're getting a whole lot more money in the economy via KiwiSaver as well. I would not be surprised if Kiwibank ends up being owned, partially by KiwiSaver funds as well.
Well, they got rid of their KiwiSaver fund, didn't they? They got rid of KiwiWealth went to Fisher. Yeah,
they sold it. And look, Kiwibank for the longest time has been capital constrained. They've kind of been like a plaything for the government. It's part of it got sold to the NZ Super Fund and ACC. They gave it back to the government. Government doesn't know what to do with Kiwibank.
Why do they keep KiwiWealth? They could have used that as a...
Well, maybe, but once again, what they needed was an awful lot of money, and the government of the day is not going to stick a couple of $1 billion into Kiwibank to make it compete with the Aussies when they can spend that on schools and roads, right?
Yeah.
So we Kiwi saver schemes, we need to be the suppliers of capital to Kiwibank in the interim. Then ultimately you can list the company, and once you list it, you can just raise money from all over the world.
I know, but that's the perfect scenario.
It is, yeah.
But again, that's years away, isn't it?
It takes time, but Duncan, like the best time to do this was 30 years ago.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Second best time is now, mate. Let's just get going, eh? Let's get going.
Sam Stubbs, always appreciate your time on the program, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you so much.